Welcome to the Books and Martinis Podcast.
I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy.
And this is your go-to book podcast,
where we lift, empower, and spotlight authors.
Grab your martini and follow along.
And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to our podcast. I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy. Welcome, everybody. And a very special welcome to Rachel, a.k.a. Rose. You want to know about her? She's right here. Cheers.
Cheers,
everybody.
Rose. Rachel.
Enjoy that martini.
They both work, whatever you want to call me.
It's a successful interview, a fun interview. You are our last recording of the day, and we're so excited to have you because you are just phenomenal. Your voice is phenomenal. And for everybody listening and watching, sorry, I just went off on a tangent. This is Rachel Hirsch, as Mercy mentioned. Her book audio name is also Rose Dioro. So you could definitely research both of them and find all the amazing books that she's done. But we're so excited to have her today as our guest. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Okay, so I'm going to kick it off with her bio, guys. So Rachel is a lifelong actor, musician, and a voiceover artist for more than 15 years. Wow. Rachel launched her now award-winning audiobook career after training with renowned director Paul Alan Ruben. She has narrated more than 200 books across many genres, including YA, middle grade, horror, nonfiction, and more, and romance as her pseudonym, Rose Dioro. One of her most recent releases, Everyone is Lying to You, by acclaimed author, journalist, and podcaster Jo Piazza, was recently chosen as an Applebooks Staff pick for audiobooks and was chosen as a top book pick for Women's World magazine. Wow, Rachel, that's amazing. Rachel has also been fortunate to narrate titles by some of the romance industry's heavy hitters like Helena Hunting, Lauren Blakely, Sarina Bowen, Giana Darling, and the list goes on. So many amazing names. Rachel has recorded titles with Penguin Random House, Simon & Schuster, Harper Audio, Macmillan Audio, Podium Audio, Blackstone Audio, Mosaic Audio, Audible Studios, and more. Wow, what a powerhouse. In addition to her narration work, Rachel is a singer, musician, and theater performer. So if you go onto her Instagram as Rachel, you will see and hear her amazing voice, guys. So make sure you check her out. Most of her career has been focused on the development of new musicals and plays, premiering work in Washington, D.C., and New York City, and Western Massachusetts with the Washington National Opera, the National Yiddish Theater, Holston Productions, and Silverhome and Chester Theaters. She's the co-founder and co-director of Play Incubation Collective, where she helps facilitate and build relationships between playwrights, actors, and other theater artists in the New England area, serving as a hands-on partner in the development of new theatrical scripts. You can learn more about Rachel at rachelhirsch.com and Rose at rosedioro.com. And we'll have the links for you in the summary, guys. And you could definitely check it out when you're done listening to this interview.
That was a lot of great stuff.
A lot of amazing stuff. So we were trying to decide, do we
Rachel.
read half of it or all of it? But we have to read all of it. Because that was powerful.
Amazing.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's funny to listen to that read out loud.
Oh, you've earned every single one of that. Every single
Yes.
thing. So tell us about you. Although we said so much, I'm sure there's still so much more to you. You're a
Yeah.
mom and you've got an incredible voice. I mean, incredible voice. Tell us about you.
Where to start? Well, I grew up in Alabama. And then it's been a long time since I lived in Alabama. I've lived kind of all over the world in major cities, but I've always been a performer since I was teeny tiny. Starting with dancing and singing and theater. And even as a little kid, I was kind of obsessed with all those like Disney classic movies, the cartoons. And so I had a sense that like voiceover was a job that you could do. And ever since I was like 6 years old, I spent every summer in these professional theater workshops. And so my teachers were people doing this out in the world. They were directors or actors or whatever they were. But I think something that's kind of maybe not unique, but not common necessarily, is that I understood really early on that being a performer was a job that I could have. Because I was seeing people who did that, and that included voiceover. Like, I had this notion as a young kid that, like, theater doesn't make a lot. This is the kind of kid I was, guys. Theater doesn't make a lot of money, and I need to support myself when I'm a grown up. So I will do voiceover work which makes more money. Seems like a lot of fun.
It's still the arts, though. It's still the arts.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I ended up doing. And it wasn't all about money, but it was, I was just like I was a precocious, practical child thinking these things through.
I think you were born for it. I mean, you really are quite amazing. I don't know, half of the stories of some of the books that you have mentioned, you have endless amounts of books, but just your voice, I know, would encourage me to want to listen to the story. Yeah. Whereas usually it's a story and then you just want to listen to it. Mm-hmm. Yours works backwards. So I think you were just born to do this.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah,
voice, I mean,
that's great to hear, because it's what I've dedicated my whole life to. So
good.
Me and my voice have had a long journey together, and I'm a little bit of a voice nerd. Like, kind of like just super interested in the mechanics of it all, and I've spent a long time learning about that and learning how to manipulate my voice in the ways that I want to and take care of it so that it shows up for me when I need it to. And and so it's been a real gift to be able to use it in the ways that I do, and especially in audiobooks. It's like audiobooks kind of bring together so many things that I love, and skills that I've built over the years, but I get to do it from home. And especially like living in Western Massachusetts now, I'm not near, any kind of major markets. So almost my entire audiobook career has been recording from home, which is kind of unusual, I think, for people who've been doing it as long as me. Mm-hmm. Because I moved out of the city. I used to live in New York. And so, yeah, it's a real gift. As you said, I'm a mom. It's like a really special thing to be able to be a professional actor every single day. And I can still go to like all my kids' performances and like,
make your schedule.
Yeah. And make my life look the way I want it to, which is, as a theater actor, is not always as attainable. So I'm really grateful that there are opportunities to use my voice in the way that I get to.
Yeah, wow. That's fantastic. Yeah. You get to make your own schedule and set your own priorities. Mm-hmm. And
yes, that's a huge thing as a mom. Yeah.
As an actor, you wouldn't be able to do that, but as a voice actor, you're in control, which is wonderful.
You totally can.
I mean, I'm sure you have timelines, but it's just not the same. You still control your day.
Yeah.
And so I have to ask you, because I'm super curious and I want to hear it live. How do you practice with something you're saying that has better, butter, batter, something. I was like, I kept watching the reel over and over. I'm like, how does she do that? How does she speed that up? So give us an example of a warm up.
Are you putting her on the spot?
Tongue twisters you're talking about. I love tongue twisters. And I'll just say before I dive into one, it's a funny thing. I notice when I need to do that exercise, the impact that it has on my ability to speak for the lengths of time that I do is really profound. What happens is my jaw will get kind of tight, or my tongue is just like, the tongue is a big muscle, right? And so sometimes it's not as limber as I need it to be to get through the passages that I have to read. And so I'll just take a pause and do a bunch of tongue twisters, and then everything comes out much better. I make far fewer mistakes. It feels like magic every time, but I absolutely love tongue twisters. The one you're talking about is called Betty Botter, and that's my favorite tongue twister. And I used to entertain my kids, still do entertain my kids by doing that tongue twister as fast as possible, and sometimes singing it in a weird song that I made up. And So you're asking me to perform it?
Yeah. Is that the request? I want to be your child.
Is that okay? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. As fast as I can is the prompt here.
Start slow, so those slow thinkers like me can grasp all the words.
Okay.
Then do you.
I'll do it twice through. Okay,
I
this is
love
the
it.
slow version.
Thank you.
Betty Body bought some butter, but she said this butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So she bought some better butter, better than her bitter butter, and she put it in her batter, and her batter was not bitter. So 'twas better Betty Body bought a bit of better butter. So the other thing that's happening, it's not just my tongue, but with this one, you can, I mean, it's my lips are getting a real workout, my jaw and the front of my mouth, and it really just realigns everything for me when I start to trip over words a lot.
Amazing.
So, okay, I'm gonna do it fast. Betty bought some butter, but she said this butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So she bought some better butter, but then better than her bitter butter, and she put it in her batter, and her batter was not bitter. So it was better. Betty Body bought a bit of better butter.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes. I love it. Thank you. I had to hear that.
Whoa.
Like,
You know,
wow.
that reminds me of Busta Rhymes. You know how Busta Rhymes is like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
That's amazing.
That was a
and
first. No one
creative.
has ever asked me to do
Oh, I love that. I love that.
that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Whoa.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh my God. And plus the mental gymnastics too, like remembering all the words and just,
Yeah.
you know.
Right? And the
Well, and
order
sometimes,
they
I mean,
go
you heard
in.
me, I'd trip up on it a little bit, but using it as an exercise, yeah, there is something about the focus it takes to do that. You know, when you are reading these very long stretches of text, you're aiming for as much accuracy as possible, so you have the fewest amount of pickups. And so, a tongue twister like that one that's really long and complicated really also helps focus my brain. Like if I'm feeling a bit scattered, I'll notice there are little things like that. Like if I'm distracted at all, I start making a ton of mistakes in like misreads. And so I kind of, that's another reason I'll pause and do like an exercise like that one, because it just kind of brings me back into the zone and refocuses my brain, because it really takes a lot of concentration and you can't be thinking about anything else in order to do something like that. So it's helpful in that way, getting my mouth moving, stretching out my tongue. So yeah, tongue twisters are the best. Love them.
Wow. So I know this is the norm for you, but it's fascinating to me. Like, that's a lot of work.
So I want to ask, so we're talking about your audio, but what about your eyes? So, you know, everybody hears your voice, but you're reading. So I just read your bio and I must have messed up like 5 times. So how do you like read a whole page without messing up?
Yeah.
Pages and pages.
You sort of, something that I find myself doing, I don't really even think about it, but I think it's just, you know, over the years, my brain has trained itself to do this. I kind of pre-read the next sentence or the next couple words. Like when I'm looking at a sentence, I can kind of see what's coming next, even though I'm not reading that part yet. And I can't really explain to you how this is working.
Your eyes are
in my
ahead
brain.
of your brain.
Exactly.
Or ahead of your mouth.
Yeah. And some of that is because, you know, in dialogue, I don't necessarily know. I see that there's quotations and I don't know who's speaking. So I have to look at the end of the sentence to see who's speaking in a moment, you know, in just like half a second to see. So I know, so I know which, like I don't stop to find out who's speaking unless there's something that's really confusing. You know, sometimes that happens, but most of the time I'm not like pausing to look at the end of the sentence and see who this person is. I'm pre-reading it kind of in like the blink of an eye. So that so the right voice comes out. And so that's what I'm kind of doing throughout the whole book is I'm reading and actively also kind of keeping track of what's coming next. Sounds crazy.
That's a gift.
That's just how it works for me. I also recently, this is a new thing I started doing that I'm absolutely loving. That was recommended to me by some other narrators, which is I use this teleprompter app. So it scrolls the page for me. So it's one less thing, because when you're these days, most narrators are not just narrating, they're engineering, they're live proofing, you know, we're wearing all these different hats. And so also the act of trying to keep track of scrolling the page correctly, and then inevitably I press some weird button by accident and everything flies to the wrong page. Taking that step out makes everything so much more seamless. And so that accuracy level is even higher because my brain it's one less thing to split, you know, my thought process about. And so the page is moving for me and I'm doing that kind of pre-read thing. And sometimes it's also a matter of like making the text a little smaller than you would think a person would want it to be in this job so that you see more of the page at once, which helps with that kind of pre-reading thing.
So much goes into it.
It's
So
complex.
much goes into it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that as a whole, when we listen to them, when we listen to stories, we don't even think about the effort behind it. We just get so involved in the story itself, which is the gift that you would give us.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I'm listening to The Nightingale right now, which is a beautiful story, but I'm not really even thinking about the narrator. I'm just thinking of the character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a job well done, right?
Yeah.
So,
A sign of a great
kudos.
narrator is that you're so immersed,
Absolutely.
you're not thinking about the cadence of their voice or how rigid it is or what it's doing to your brain. You're
Right.
just so in it,
Right.
Sure.
And when you don't have the right narrator, then that can also kill a great story.
Sure.
So, so it's really important.
Casting is important for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, an actor is an actor, right? So he
Mhm.
could make it or break it when it comes to the movie. As a narrator, and with all the incredible books that you have narrated, what would you say has been the most memorable or surprising moment you've had in your career? And I'm sure
Well,
you've had a lot of great ones because you've
yeah.
won so many things.
Yeah, it's I've had a lot of takeaways from a lot of different projects, things that have helped me to grow or change or learn, or books that I've just absolutely adored. One, I would say, the way I'm going to answer this question anyways, just so I can choose a lane, is one book that I did that really changed the way I narrate is a book called The Five by Lily White. It's
Okay.
categorized as a romance. I don't know what I would call it. I suppose it's a romance, but it feels very different than any romance I've ever narrated before. It's very, very dark and heavy. And it required so much of me. And I learned so much about myself as a narrator. And I feel like I built a whole bunch of new skills in narrating that book that I now carry with me to all my other projects. And the book itself is really surprising. As I said, it is really dark, but and just like it's one of the heaviest books I've ever had to narrate. What my character goes through in that is just she just goes through some unimaginable things, but what it did for me is it just gave me some incredible acting opportunities and really had me think about like how do I protect myself when I'm recording something that is so emotional, and how do I I just had to make really specific choices about how to tell this complicated, heavy story that surprises you in so many ways, and it just really taught me a lot.
Wow.
That's
Was that
great.
one of your earlier books that you recorded, or where was that in the timeline?
That's a great question. It was maybe like, I don't know, how long have I been doing it? I've been doing it over a decade. So narration specifically, it was maybe 5 years in. I'm not sure exactly.
Okay.
Like
So it was-
mid-career
Okay.
of the length of my career so far.
Wow.
And the book was called The Five.
The Five by Lily White.
You wouldn't consider it a romance.
I don't know. Yeah, it's not. I think the reason it doesn't feel quite like a romance to me is because it's not really about a love story. That's like not that is there, and there is like somewhat of a happy ending, I guess, but that to me that's not the center point of the story. Like that's not what the story feels like it's about to me. To me it feels like it's about this character's very specific, very complicated journey just being a human. And that is really, and like all her struggles and how the choices that she makes and why. And so it feels, at times it feels like a thriller. At times it feels like a horror story, to be honest. And at times it feels just like a I don't know, just like general fiction story of triumph in some ways. And so I don't know. but
Wow. Did
but
that
I was
surprise you when you were working on it?
absolutely, yeah. It went in so many different directions than I expected it to. And it, as I said, it's just so it stands out to me amongst the many books that I've done. It is one that I've never forgotten, that I think about a lot because of all these things that I'm saying, because of what it
Yeah.
taught me, but also because it is such a surprising book. And the
Mhm.
writing, the author's just her writing style, I think I was really drawn to it as well. She has a unique way of storytelling, and I really appreciated. And yeah, I recommend it.
That's
Well,
so interesting.
Yeah. So let's talk about your process then, because I know this
Sure.
affected your process. Now, when you let's talk about the pre-production, current, when you're currently recording, and then your post-production. Do you ask the author for maybe the trigger warnings or notes on what they want to hear from your voice? So obviously they picked you from, probably other narrators, and they chose your voice. Are they giving you tips of things that they're looking for when you're narrating their work?
So most of my work is through publishers and production houses, and I have very little direct contact with the author when
Okay.
recording the book. Like I've over the years I've gotten to know many of the authors whose work I've narrated, but I'm not necessarily talking with them about the book while I'm in the process of prepping it.
Okay.
But that really depends on my producer. And some producers really prefer to be the liaison. And so they don't, for whatever reason, want you to have direct communication. And some offer it. And so it depends on the project and the person
Yeah.
that's hiring me. But you're right, for romance, at least, oftentimes it's the author that has requested me specifically, or they've been sent some samples of mine out of a bunch and they're like, that's the one. And sometimes, occasionally, I'm sent requests for an audition. And so a lot of times when that happens, I get a lot of information about the book and the characters, because they want to give you some context, because you're not reading the whole book, you're just reading this little chunk. And so I receive a lot of context. And then if I book that gig, then I already have some of that context and notes from the author or from the producer. Most of the time it's the author gave them to the producer and the producer is giving them to me, and I go back and look at those notes again. Increasingly, production houses and sometimes publishers send you like a document. They have the author fill out a document about the book. And so some of the things that you're asking about, like, tell me what I need to know about this character, like, how are you hearing their voice? Sometimes there's like notes about, if this were a movie, this is the actor that I see playing this role. Most of the time, though, you get like a short character description. How old is the person? Do they have an accent of any sort? Where do they live? Kind of general notes about their personality. You get that about the handful of main characters. And that's what I have to go on. But primarily, I'm just prepping the book and I'm making my own notes, and I have a system for doing that. And then that's what I use to prepare. And again, as someone who self-records, that means I'm also the director. So I'm not getting, unless I'm working with a director, which sometimes some publishers like to set you up that way. So I'm either going in studio and being directed, and then it's the director who's telling me all the things that you're asking about. That comes from the director. Or I'm being remote directed, like we'll get on Zoom and they're watching me and they'll interject some thoughts or direction for me. But most of the time, I'm the director. So that means I'm taking my own notes and I'm making my own choices about voices and energy and like any of the things that, like anything about, I'm gleaning information from the text, and most authors are going to be pretty descriptive about the characters they're writing just within the text of the book, and I'm jotting down those notes, and that's what I use to make the choices. increasingly, again, we're getting pronunciation lists, which is really helpful. And so I'm also referencing those as I'm recording to make sure that I'm pronouncing names, especially the way that the author envisioned them, because sometimes you'll be really surprised by the way someone wants a name pronounced and it is not the way you thought it was. And so it's good to have those notes. And then I'm also, if I have a co-narrator or narrators, we're also in communication to make sure that we're consistent about pronunciations, about vocal choices, whether it's accents or just like style of just like, is this person extra gravelly, or is their voice a bit higher set because there's this kind of description in the book and that's what's coming up for me, and how does that feel for you, and so you're having some communication about that as well.
So much in there. Tell me, how long does an average book take you from the moment you set up, like, okay, I have to do this book, and you're committed to it, and you're going to start reading it, to the moment that the product is finished and you turn it in?
And if you do multiple books at the same time?
Okay, so I'm going to kind of jump around to answer this question. So in the booth, generally speaking, it really depends on the genre. And also if there are a lot of typos in the book, because if there are a lot of typos, it's going to take me longer. And sometimes that does happen. Most of the time not. And so that's not, more and more, that's not really something that's coming up for me in the booth. But it has over the course of my career. That slows you down. But if there aren't a lot of unusual accents or really difficult pronunciations, and let's say it's like a rom-com or something, for every hour that you hear when you listen to the audiobook, it has taken me like 1.2 to 1.5 hours of recording time in the booth.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
That's me. Everybody's ratio for that is very different, but that's mine. If it's something that has a lot of different languages and accents and complicated things going on, it's definitely going to take me longer, probably closer to 2 hours per every recorded hour in the booth. And then in terms of prep before that, again, highly dependent on what's going on in that book. Sometimes I spend, a number of hours researching content, like it's about a scientist or something and some topic that I know nothing about. And so I'm going to have to learn a little bit about that. And maybe there's a lot of names or places that are being referenced that I want to do some research on. So that's going to add some time, but just straight up reading the book without that research and taking my notes. The truth is, I don't really know how long that takes me anymore. I used to time it so I could get a sense of it. I usually block out like 2 or 3 days for prepping a book in my schedule. But then sometimes I end up just doing the prep at night in bed, and sometimes I'm doing it while I'm eating lunch, and sometimes I'm just sitting down for whole days prepping. So it looks a little different depending on what else is going on in my schedule. And to your question about, am I working on multiple books at a time? Lately, yes. Right now, today, I was working on 2 different books and prepping a third. Usually, at the very least, I'm recording something and prepping something else.
Yeah. Well, what a great problem to have, right?
Yeah, it is. But nowadays I'm getting, sometimes I'll get like little novellas or very short projects. And so those I'll kind of layer in with other books that I'm working on. Or if there are delays, like I started recording a book and then I realized, I didn't realize I needed to ask this question. And so now I have to wait to get an answer to it. I'll skip ahead to something else that that's ready for recording in the meantime. So sometimes I kind of jump around depending on what's going on in the moment.
I have another question. So you're reading all these great books because it's your job to read them, right? Because that's what you're doing. Outside of that, do you find yourself reading other books?
Yes.
Do you have time?
Yes. Well, because of audiobooks, I do. Yeah. Almost. I've started. I had a Kindle and kind of put it away for a long time because I was just overwhelmed with reading books for work all the time. Right. Mm-hmm. But the truth is that in an effort to stop being on my phone so much, I have gone back to my Kindle and I'm using my Kindle instead of my phone. Like I'll bring it with me. And when I'm waiting to be seen at an appointment or something, that's what I'm doing. And it's allowed me to read for pleasure a lot more. But besides that, I'm constantly listening to at least one audiobook, sometimes 2 or 3.
And do you have a favorite narrator?
I was about to ask, like, is there somebody that you fanned over?
I'm
You're like, oh my
sure,
God, I get to
I'm
do this.
sure there's many of them.
There
I'm
are
sure.
so many.
I'm sure.
I mean, the cliche thing. I love Julia Whalen, love her voice. I've learned a lot from listening to her. She is sort of who I cite as my intro to audiobooks as a listener, because I didn't really my connection to audiobooks is that I feel like I've told this story so many times in so many different settings, but I'm going to do it again. I was, as a kid, my parents loved audiobooks, and we used to go on a lot of road trips, and they would always play an audiobook, but it was always like John Grisham or, Stephen King or whatever. And I was a little kid, and it was so boring. And I was like, I don't understand anything that's going on. Why are we listening to this? And that was my understanding of what an audiobook was. It was also stylistically, the way those books were recorded is so different than what you generally hear now. I mean, that still exists. The sort of, it was more of a, I'm reading you this book. And now, especially in romance anyway, the approach is more, I'm performing this story for you. I am creating a movie in your mind. And those are very different styles. And so I just, I was like, who wants to listen to this? But it's just because I was a kid and I was listening to books that were meant for adults and I didn't understand what was happening. So I didn't ever really go back to them until I decided I wanted to pursue it because I knew that it would be fun to, whether I wanted to listen to them or not, the act of creating them sounded really wonderful and exciting and appealing to me. But then I had to start listening for research. And the first book that really, I think it might have been the first audiobook I listened to that I chose was Gone Girl, which Julia Whalen was one of the narrators for. And it was phenomenal. I mean, that book is obviously excellent, but her narration was just really eye-opening for me because it was the first book that I listened to that was this, I'm creating an image for you just with my voice. It was the first time I ever heard that and that could be a thing. So, I'll always hold a special place in my heart for her. But, there's just so many incredible narrators. I'm constantly amazed by all of my colleagues and I learn so much from them all the time. I'm listening to... Oh, I'm not going to be able to recall it in the moment because I'm terrible at that. But I'm listening to a book right now with a narrator that I know who is fantastic. And there are some choices that she's making as she's recording that are just blowing my mind. And I get so much joy from listening to my colleagues and learning from them all the time. And I listen to so many audiobooks. And so I get to receive that gift over and over again every day.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. So if there's a narrator out there, what's your message to them? Or an aspiring narrator, I should say.
Or advice. Yeah, advice too.
Listen to audiobooks because, I mean, I will say this, as an actor, this has always been what I've done. I always try to learn from fellow actors. One of my favorite places to be is in a rehearsal room because you get to see other actors working. And as a little kid, I was working in professional theaters. And so I got to see these professional, people with Broadway credits in the rehearsal room. I got to observe their process. And that is still something I think about too today in my own acting, whether it's on stage or in the booth. And I think audiobooks are no exception. Like if you want to narrate, you need to listen to books. Listen to books in the genres that you want to narrate. Listen to books in genres you don't think you want to narrate. And try to understand what's out there. What are choices that people are making? What are some things you really are enjoying listening to? What are some choices people are making that you're like, I think I would do that differently? All of it. Just absorb as much as you can and start there. And then if you aren't a narrator yet and you're just considering being one, read a book out loud from start to finish. Sit inside your closet so you get the feeling of being in a small space. and read a book and see how it feels, because it's a lot harder than you might expect.
And record. Do you record yourself too, or
you could,
Yeah.
but even before you get to that step, just try reading out loud for a really long time, and see if you want to
It's
be
for you or not.
Yeah, yeah, because there is something about, I mean, I stand these days to narrate, but like most people sit, and just sitting for the length of time that it takes to record is really grueling on your body. And also just embodying these characters, every emotion they're feeling. If you are performing the book, you're going to feel it in your body too. And so the way that builds tension in you, and the ways that it can
Affect your body.
difficult and affect your body are huge.
Mhm.
And so just try that and see if you're willing to put yourself through that. And then of course, like, doing that exercise is not going to be the same as when you get some training and you cultivate the skill set, and then you actually start doing it as a job. But it's a start, and it'll let you know if it's something that you might enjoy or not, because it's really not for everybody. But that's the best way to, I think, to find out if it might be of interest to you or not.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. That's great advice to those listening or watching us. I cannot thank you enough for your time, for your advice, for sharing, for doing that fun exercise. Well, it was fun to listen to. I don't know how fun it was to do,
That was fun,
but
for
I
me.
appreciate that you did it. I know you're a mom, you have a family. It's a Friday, it's late. So I really, on behalf of Priya and I, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing how amazing your talent is, and for making books come to life for us.
Oh,
Yes.
it's my pleasure.
Thank you. And I want to do another cheers to you and to you and to Rose.
Yes.
Oh,
Cheers to
thank you.
Rachel and to
you're almost out of
Rose.
water.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Cheers to your success.
And
you.
if our listeners have any questions, please feel free to put them here below, and we will be answering. And I'm sure that Rachel will answer as well. And so will Rose.
Yes. Thank you so much for being our guest today. You guys, check out the links in the summary. Follow her on social media. Check out her books. Listen to her books. And if you're interested in a voice acting career, Rachel is open on social if you want to reach out to her. Correct, Rachel?
Yeah. I do sometimes people reach out to me for coaching. I have a whether it's talking about career or actual narration coaching. I do all of those things. And I also have a podcast with a fellow romance narrator, Samantha Brentmore, where we talk about sort of how things work in the romance audiobook industry. So for anyone, but it applies, so much of it is applicable to the entire audiobook industry. So if anyone is looking for more information about what happens behind the scenes, or how do you get started, or what is casting like, all those things, we talk about all of it. It's called the Rosemore Roundtable. So that might be helpful for anyone.
Oh, that's wonderful. Okay,
Love
so we have to add that.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you for being our guest. Everybody like, share, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Rachel.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Rachel. Thank you.